know what's frustrating? Some people sleep 8 or 9 hours and still wake up exhausted. Their body gets out of bed, but their brain never fully catches up. Everything feels heavier than it should. Simple conversations take effort. Focus disappears faster. Even small decisions feel mentally expensive. And after a while, the exhaustion stops feeling temporary. It starts feeling normal. You wake up already waiting for caffeine, already negotiating with your own energy, already hoping your brain eventually turns on sometime later in the day. Maybe you've experienced this yourself. You finally put the phone down earlier than usual. You try to sleep properly for once. You even tell yourself, "Tonight, I'll actually rest." Then morning comes. Your eyes burn. Your thoughts feel slower. Your body is awake, but your mind still feels somewhere else. Coffee stops feeling optional. Silence feels heavier. And deep down, you start wondering something most people never say out loud. Why do I feel tired all the time, even when I sleep? Now here's where this gets interesting. There are also people sleeping 5 or 6 hours and somehow waking up clear, focused, calm, almost fully recharged, not wired, not overstimulated, just recovered. That feels impossible when your own sleep never seems to restore you. But the truth is, your problem may not be sleep time. It may be recovery quality, because your brain does not measure rest the way clocks measure hours. It measures depth. Rhythm, nervous system shutdown, hormonal timing, sleep cycle efficiency. Whether your brain actually reached the states required for real recovery. That's why some people sleep longer and still feel drained, and others sleep less, but recover deeper. This changes the entire way you think about sleep, because if your sleep is broken, more hours will not fully solve the problem. You'll just spend more time unconscious without truly recovering. And once you understand what your brain actually needs during sleep, you stop chasing more sleep and start building real recovery. That changes everything.
Here's what most people never realize about sleep. Your brain is not trying to keep you unconscious for 8 hours. It's trying to complete specific recovery processes. That's the real purpose of sleep. And once you understand that, something starts making a lot more sense. You can spend a long time in bed and still wake up mentally exhausted. You've probably experienced this yourself. There are mornings where you sleep 8 or 9 hours and still wake up feeling strangely heavy. Your body moves, but your brain feels delayed. Your thoughts feel slower. You stare at your phone for 5 minutes without even realizing it. Sometimes you need caffeine just to feel emotionally functional. Then there are other days where you sleep less, yet somehow feel clearer. That doesn't happen randomly. Your brain moves through sleep in cycles, roughly every 90 minutes, and each stage does something different. Light sleep helps your body transition into recovery. Deep sleep is where physical repair happens. Muscles recover, inflammation drops, energy gets restored. REM sleep is where your brain starts reorganizing itself emotionally and mentally. Memory, learning, focus, emotional regulation, cognitive clarity, all of that depends heavily on quality REM sleep. Real recovery happens when your brain can move through those cycles deeply and without constant interruption. But modern life quietly destroys that process. You lie down physically tired, but mentally overstimulated. One more scroll, one more video, one more thought replaying in your head. Your nervous system stays slightly alert even while your body is technically asleep. And that creates one of the biggest problems in modern exhaustion. You spend the night unconscious, without ever reaching deep recovery. That's why some people sleep longer and still wake up drained. Not because they're lazy, not because they lack discipline, but because their brain never fully recovered. And honestly, this changes the way you see sleep completely, because exhaustion is not always caused by lack of sleep. Sometimes it's caused by fragmented recovery. That's why chasing more hours doesn't always solve the problem. If your sleep quality is broken, more time in bed can simply mean more shallow sleep, more interruptions, more incomplete cycles. More unconsciousness does not automatically mean more restoration. Imagine two people. One sleeps 8.5 hours with stress, inconsistent sleep times, late night screen exposure, random wake-ups during the night, and poor deep sleep quality. The other sleeps 6 hours with consistent timing, lower stimulation before bed, cleaner sleep cycles, and deeper recovery stages. Very often, the second person wakes up feeling dramatically better, not because they need less sleep, because their brain recovered more efficiently. That's the difference almost nobody talks about. And once you understand this, sleep stops being only about quantity. It becomes about how efficiently your brain enters recovery. If you've been getting value from this video so far, leave a like. It genuinely helps. And if you want to learn how to improve your energy, focus, and recovery naturally, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because the truth is, some of the habits making you exhausted every morning happen during the final hour before you fall asleep. So if sleep quality matters more than people think, what actually destroys it? For most people, the damage starts long before they fall asleep. It starts during the final hour of the night. Because your brain cannot instantly switch from stimulation to deep recovery. That's not how the nervous system works. But modern life trains people to stay mentally active until the exact second they close their eyes. And then they wonder why they wake up exhausted. Think about what most nights look like now. Bright screens 6 inches from your face, fast videos, notifications, emails, artificial light flooding your eyes at midnight, your brain consuming stimulation nonstop while your body quietly begs for recovery. You may feel physically tired, but neurologically, you're still fully awake. Your body is lying in bed, but your nervous system still thinks the day is happening. Your heart rate stays slightly elevated. Your brain keeps scanning for stimulation. Even when your eyes close, your system never fully powers down. And this is where one of the biggest sleep mistakes happens. People think sleep starts when they close their eyes. It doesn't. Sleep starts with what your brain experiences before bed. That final hour is programming the quality of your recovery, because when your brain stays overstimulated late at night, stress hormones remain elevated longer than they should. Melatonin release gets delayed. Deep sleep becomes lighter. REM sleep becomes fragmented. Your body technically sleeps, but your brain never fully enters restoration mode. And over time, this creates a strange kind of exhaustion. Not dramatic exhaustion, functional exhaustion. The kind where you still go to work, still answer messages, still smile during conversations, but internally, everything feels slightly harder than it should. Your attention weakens faster. Your patience gets shorter. Motivation becomes inconsistent. Small tasks feel mentally heavier. And eventually, you stop remembering what fully recovered energy even feels like. That's why some people wake up after 8 hours feeling mentally scattered, emotionally flat, and strangely unmotivated. Their brain rested just enough to survive, but not enough to truly recover. And honestly, most people have no idea this is happening. They think the problem is discipline, or laziness, or age, or lack of motivation, when sometimes the real problem is that their nervous system never truly learned how to shut down. This is why high-quality sleep is less about passing out, and more about preparing your brain for recovery. That preparation changes everything, because your brain needs signals that tell it the stimulation is over, the stress is lowering, the environment is safe, and recovery can finally begin. So how do you actually teach your brain to recover deeply? It starts with something surprisingly simple: consistency. Not perfection, not sleeping 10 hours, not some extreme biohacking routine. Consistency. Because your brain is built around rhythm. Every night, your body is trying to predict when recovery begins. And when your sleep schedule constantly changes, midnight one night, 2 a.m. the next, sleeping in on weekends, staying awake too late on Sunday, your circadian rhythm slowly loses stability. Most people feel the consequences, but never recognize the pattern. You wake up exhausted on Monday, slightly better on Wednesday, destroyed again on Friday. Then you try to catch up on sleep during the weekend, only to feel strangely off again a day later. Your brain never fully finds a stable rhythm. And once that rhythm becomes inconsistent, recovery quality starts collapsing quietly in the background. People notice the symptoms: the brain fog, the emotional fatigue, the dependence on caffeine, the heavy mornings, the feeling that your mind never feels completely clear anymore. But they rarely connect those symptoms to rhythm. And the truth is, the brain loves predictability. When you sleep and wake at roughly the same time consistently, your body starts preparing for recovery automatically. Melatonin release becomes smoother. Your nervous system begins slowing down earlier. Deep sleep arrives faster and more efficiently. Your brain stops resisting sleep. And this matters more than most people realize. Because one of the fastest ways to damage recovery is constantly confusing your biological clock. Sleeping 5 hours one night, 9 the next, then staying awake until 3 a.m. on weekends creates what researchers often call social jet lag. Your body never fully understands when recovery is supposed to happen. Imagine forcing your brain to change time zones every few days. That's how many people are living now. And over time, the nervous system starts paying the price. Sleep becomes lighter. Mornings become heavier. Focus disappears faster. Stress feels harder to recover from because the brain never fully resets. This is why some people can sleep fewer hours and still feel dramatically better. Not because they're genetically superior, not because they're superhuman, but because their sleep rhythm is stable enough for the brain to recover efficiently. And honestly, this is where real sleep optimization begins. Not with supplements, not with hacks, not with expensive gadgets, with rhythm. Because when your body trusts the timing of sleep, recovery becomes dramatically easier, because the quality of your mornings often reflects the quality of your recovery. Now here's where sleep starts becoming extremely practical. Because once your nervous system has a stable rhythm, the next thing that matters is protecting your deep sleep. And one of the biggest things that destroys deep recovery is something millions of people consume every single day without thinking twice about it: caffeine. Now, caffeine itself is not the enemy. The problem is timing, because caffeine blocks a chemical in your brain called adenosine. And adenosine is one of the main signals that creates sleep pressure throughout the day. It's part of what makes your body naturally feel ready for deep rest at night. So when you drink caffeine too late, something strange happens. You may still fall asleep, but your brain often struggles to enter deep recovery properly. That's why some people sleep an entire night and still wake up feeling mentally foggy, emotionally flat, or physically drained. Their body was asleep, but the quality of recovery was weaker than they realized. And the scary part is that many people never connect the two. They drink caffeine in the afternoon because they're tired, without realizing the caffeine may be helping create the exhaustion they feel the next morning. It becomes a cycle. Poor recovery creates fatigue. Fatigue creates more caffeine. More caffeine creates worse recovery. And over time, the nervous system starts living in a constant state of artificial stimulation. You feel awake, but never truly restored. This is why many sleep researchers recommend avoiding caffeine too late in the day, especially during the final 8 to 10 hours before sleep. Because even if the energy feeling disappears, caffeine can remain active inside the nervous system far longer than people think. And honestly, modern exhaustion is rarely caused by just one thing. Usually it's the accumulation of small disruptions. Late caffeine, bright screens, stress before bed, irregular sleep timing, mental overstimulation, fragmented sleep cycles. Each one chips away at recovery little by little, until eventually, exhaustion starts feeling like your default state. And this is why protecting deep sleep matters so much. Because deep sleep is where the nervous system finally begins repairing itself. Stress levels decrease. Physical recovery increases. The brain clears metabolic waste. Energy restoration actually begins. Without enough deep recovery, you don't just feel sleepy. You feel disconnected from yourself. Less clear. Less present. Less emotionally stable. Less alive. And most people think that feeling is normal now. It isn't. And here's something almost nobody talks about. Your brain cannot enter deep recovery if your environment still feels unsafe, stimulating, or stressful. That's why your sleep environment matters far more than people realize. Because sleep is not just biological. It's neurological. Your brain is constantly scanning the environment, even while you sleep. Temperature, light, noise, movement, stress signals, small disturbances your conscious mind may not even remember the next morning, but your nervous system remembers them. And over time, those tiny interruptions slowly fragment recovery. This is why deep sleep tends to happen more easily in environments that feel dark, quiet, cool, and predictable. Your brain relaxes faster when it stops detecting stimulation. And modern bedrooms often do the exact opposite. Artificial lights everywhere. Phones charging beside the bed. Random notifications during the night. Hot rooms. TV noise in the background. Mental stress carried straight into sleep. The body lies down, but the nervous system never fully feels safe enough to deeply let go. And this matters because deep sleep is extremely sensitive to environment. Even small amounts of light through your eyelids can affect melatonin production. Excess heat can disrupt deep sleep cycles. Sudden sounds can briefly activate stress responses in the brain, without fully waking you up. You may not remember these interruptions consciously, but your recovery still pays the price. This is why so many high performers become obsessive about sleep environment, not because it's trendy, not because it looks aesthetic online, because the brain recovers better when the environment supports recovery. Sometimes the difference between waking up exhausted and waking up refreshed is surprisingly small. Colder room, less light, less stimulation, less noise, less stress entering sleep. And honestly, this is what most people misunderstand about energy. Energy is not only created, a huge part of it is protected. Protected from constant interruption. Protected from overstimulation. Protected from recovery disruption. Because when recovery keeps getting interrupted night after night, your nervous system slowly stops reaching full restoration. And eventually, exhaustion stops feeling abnormal. It starts feeling like personality. And maybe the biggest mistake people make with sleep is this. They treat recovery like a luxury instead of a biological requirement. Modern culture almost glorifies exhaustion now. Sleeping less becomes a flex. Being constantly busy becomes identity. People brag about surviving on 4 hours of sleep as if burnout were a sign of ambition. But the brain doesn't care about hustle culture. Your nervous system still keeps score, because every night of poor recovery slowly accumulates inside the body. Stress hormones stay elevated longer. Emotional regulation weakens. Focus becomes harder to maintain. Anxiety becomes easier to trigger. Motivation becomes unstable. And the scary part is that this decline usually happens gradually. So gradually that people adapt to it. They start believing, this is just adulthood. This is just life. This is just how I am now. But many people are not lazy. They're neurologically exhausted. There's a huge difference. Because when your brain hasn't recovered properly for weeks, months, sometimes even years, exhaustion starts affecting everything. Your patience, your confidence, your clarity, your discipline, your emotional stability, even your ability to enjoy life fully. You stop feeling mentally sharp. You stop feeling emotionally present. You stop feeling deeply energized. And eventually, your survival mode becomes your personality. That's why real recovery changes more than energy. It changes the way you experience life itself. You think more clearly. You regulate emotions better. You become more patient, more focused, more stable, more alive. And this is what people misunderstand about sleep optimization. The goal is not becoming someone who sleeps less. The goal is becoming someone who recovers better. Because when recovery becomes deeper, your brain becomes more efficient. Sleep quality improves. Energy becomes more stable. Focus lasts longer. Mornings stop feeling like punishment. And for the first time in a long time, you start remembering what it feels like to wake up genuinely refreshed. Not overstimulated. Not dependent on survival habits. Not dragging yourself through the day. Just clear. Just rested. Just mentally alive again. So after everything we talked about, what does sleeping less and waking up fresh actually mean? It does not mean forcing your body to survive on 4 hours of sleep. It does not mean ignoring biology, ignoring exhaustion, ignoring recovery. And it definitely does not mean turning yourself into a machine. Real sleep optimization is not about becoming less human. It's about helping your brain recover the way it was designed to. Because the truth is, most people don't actually need more stimulation. They need deeper restoration. Their nervous system is overloaded. Their brain is overstimulated. Their recovery is fragmented. And their body has spent too long operating in survival mode. That's why waking up refreshed feels so rare now. Not because humans are weak, but because modern life constantly interrupts recovery. And once you understand that, sleep starts looking completely different. You stop asking, how can I sleep less? And start asking, how can I recover better? That question changes everything. Because better recovery changes your mornings, your focus, your emotions, your patience, your motivation, even the way you experience ordinary life. You think more clearly. You react less emotionally. You feel calmer inside your own mind. Energy becomes stable instead of unpredictable. And maybe the strangest part is this. When your recovery improves enough, you stop obsessing over energy all the time. Because your brain finally stops fighting just to function. You wake up before your alarm sometimes. Your thoughts feel cleaner. Your body feels lighter. The day stops feeling like something you have to survive. And for the first time in a long time, you feel mentally present again. Not perfect, not superhuman, just recovered. And honestly, that's probably what most exhausted people are truly searching for. Not more hours in the day, just enough energy to fully live inside them again. So if there's one thing I want you to remember after this video, it's this. Being constantly exhausted is not normal. Common, yes. Modern, definitely. But normal for the human brain? Not at all. Your mind was not designed to live permanently overstimulated, emotionally drained, mentally foggy, and dependent on artificial energy just to get through the day. And yet, that's how millions of people are living right now. Not because they're weak, not because they lack discipline, but because their nervous system has spent too long disconnected from real recovery. And the truth is, you probably don't need to completely rebuild your life overnight to start changing that. Sometimes recovery begins with smaller shifts than people expect. Sleeping at a more consistent time, reducing stimulation before bed, getting sunlight in the morning, protecting deep sleep instead of sacrificing it, giving your brain moments of real shutdown again. Small adjustments, but powerful ones. Because every night your brain is trying to repair you, trying to regulate stress, trying to restore clarity, trying to stabilize emotion, trying to bring your energy back online. The problem is that modern life constantly interrupts the process. But once you understand how recovery actually works, everything starts changing. You stop glorifying exhaustion. You stop treating burnout like ambition. You stop believing tiredness is simply part of adulthood. And slowly, your body starts remembering what real recovery feels like again. You wake up clearer, calmer, lighter, more emotionally stable, more mentally present. Life stops feeling like something you barely survive and starts feeling like something you can fully experience again. Because in the end, the goal was never just to sleep less. The real goal was to wake up alive. If this video helped you see sleep differently, leave a like and subscribe for more videos on energy, focus, psychology, and human performance. And next time you wake up exhausted, remember this: your body may not be asking for more time. It may be asking for deeper recovery.